Hello there.
So what is going on, everyone? My name is Wolfwolf77 and welcome back to another video, and specifically part 2 of the Battlefront 2 inspired Spyro concept series. I do apologize that it has been a long time since I have gotten to making this part, because the last part was probably around 2 months ago, I think, as of this recording. So I'm going to try and hopefully get back into a bit of a consistent pattern. But essentially, for those who are new to the channel and don't know exactly what I'm talking about, this is essentially what would a Spyro game look like in the style of Star Wars Battlefront 2 in terms of how it looks now, because of course it's changed so much since launch. So in the previous concept, we covered Spyro and Cinder in what their abilities, star cards, attacks, appearances, and health and base descriptions would be. And now we're going to cover the first 2 heroes for the dark side, so the villains, obviously. So in terms of emotes though, that is potentially going to be for another video if I do actually get into that, because I didn't really think about emotes as of right now, but I'm sure you guys might have a couple of suggestions as to what I can do. But without further ado, I think we can go right ahead and start off this video with Malefor, who is going to be the first villain for the dark side in this game, pretty much. So, the base description I've got here for Malefor is: the first in the line of the purple dragons, Malefor was driven into darkness and sought to rule the world and spread his darkness. Driven by hatred and rage for Spyro and guilt of betrayal by his former servant Cinder, Malefor won't stop to reign as the ruler of the world, even if it means to destroy it. So, for those who did play Dawn of the Dragon, you would have a general understanding of Malefor, or rather the whole trilogy itself, but predominantly the third one, because that's where he's actually shown. And a fun fact for you guys, before we continue, is Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, is the one who voices Malefor in the game. You can't tell because obviously effects and stuff, but yeah, it was really cool to find out about that. But anyways, let's get back to the video. So the base health I've got here for Malefor is going to be 800, because I see him as being like a tank type of hero, just like Darth Vader. Also because he and Spyro are both purple dragons, but Malefor is a lot older and bigger, so I think the 800 health might be suitable for someone like Malefor. And then in terms of his appearances, the default appearance is just going to be called Dark Master, which is going to be his look from Dawn of the Dragon, essentially. And then the next appearance I've got here is going to be an epic appearance and will be called Battle Armor. Now, I don't actually have a reference image for this, but essentially it's based upon what I had for Spyro and Cinder, where they had their own armored appearances, and I figured Malefor's probably got his own armor too, so why not add that in? And then we get into the attacks. So his primary attack is going to be using a dark version of the Fire Breath, so the opposite to what Spyro has. And then his secondary attack, so this is if you were to press down on the right joystick on the controller, for example, is using Dragon Claws and Tail, which is what I've been having with every single dragon character as of right now. It can change depending on who it is. And then if you use the up arrow, of course he'll be using Flight, which does also affect stamina. Now, this button could be changed to just pressing the X button, which is PS4, but I think for Xbox it's the B button. So the letter button on the bottom, you could like press it twice and you fly, but it does affect your stamina. And then we get to the aim button, which is just going to be blocking using their wings. So that will come pretty handy in battle and stuff. And then we get to the abilities. So with Spyro, I gave him 4 abilities because he was, of course, the purple dragon. And Malifaux has also got 4 because he's also the purple dragon. No one else is going to have 4 abilities but Spyro and Malifaux. But it's not going to be broken like Anakin's is in Battlefront 2, so don't worry about that, guys. But we'll get straight into it. So the first regular ability he has is going to be called Dark Control. So this is where Malifaux focuses his power on his enemies and temporarily makes them more vulnerable to damage, leaving them renderless with no use of abilities and attacking for a short time in the process. So, pretty self-explanatory. This is pretty much Count Dooku's Expose Weakness ability. In my original concept on my previous channel, I used to have it so that they were more vulnerable to their own allies' damage also, which was a little too overpowered. So, like, that's what I was told, and I agreed, so I cut it down to just what Dooku has, essentially. And then the second ability is Convexity. So this is where Malifaux channels in the power of the darkness and the elements of the purple dragon, receiving a temporary health buff and damage output increase, as well as being able to take more damage for a short time. So, really, it's just he's stronger, faster, and he can take a lot more damage, essentially. That's all it is. And then the final regular ability is Beatdown. So this is where Malifaux lunges forward at his enemies, picking up at least 2 and moving above slightly as he then throws them to the ground on hard impact, dealing damage in the process. Now, this one is kind of like a mix of General Grievous's Thrust Surge ability, but then with a bit of a twist to it. This particular move kind of reminds me of what Malifaux does at the end of the battle in Dawn of the Dragon, where he picks both Spyro and Cinder and pins them to a wall. That's just kind of what it reminds me of. But yeah, it could have a radial, like a radius impact, so it will affect others around. If they're close enough, that is, maybe. We'll see what happens. I may have a star card that says that. I haven't actually looked at this for quite a bit, but I know it's pretty much the same from what I remember. But anyways, now we're going to get into the fourth ability, which is his passive ability, which is going to be Decimating Chaos. So this is where Malifaux begins charging up an aura of vortex energy that draws in enemies towards him and then releases a chain of decimating vortex lightning, bouncing to multiple enemies and dealing severe damage, showing how truly dark and powerful he is. Now, of course, there's no star cards to back this up, and the radius is, like, it's not gigantic, so it's broken and stuff. You've got to be at a certain distance to actually be affected. So you'll have, like, a thing that tells you how many people you'll be able to affect with the ability, and then you can just go with that. And then we get into the star cards, which I did mention in the previous part. I'm just going to bring it up now again, that every hero has got a health on kill passive automatically. So regular troopers, they get 20 health, and heroes and villains is like 120 pretty much. So Malifaux's first star card is, for every enemy Malifaux defeats, he will receive a small amount of stamina back. So this is Darth Vader's card pretty much. The second card is Malifaux's stamina bar drains slower, and the third card is Malifaux has increased health regeneration. Those are the 3 basic, like, regular cards, so that's pretty easy there. And then we're going to get into the cards for each of his abilities, minus the Decimating Chaos. So the first 2 are for Dark Control, so we've got the recharge time of Dark Control is shorter, and the other one is enemies become even more vulnerable when affected by Dark Control. So they're pretty self-explanatory there. And then the next 2 for Convexity are going to be Malifaux receives more health from Convexity, And the other card is Malifaux can deal even more damage when Convexity is active. So it's like a choice between the two, essentially. Like, I didn't want to try and mix each of them to be like, you get a health buff and a damage output buff, like even more. But yeah, so I think it works with that. And then the final two cards is going to be for beatdown. So we got Malifaux can target enemies that are further away from him when using beatdown, having a shorter cooldown also. And then the final card is Malifaux becomes more harsh and deals more damage with the finishing move of beatdown. You pretty much don't want to get on the end of that move, from the sound of it, pretty much. But apart from that, that covers Malifaux entirely, so that means we're going to move on to the last villain for part 2, and the second one overall for the villain side, and that is going to be Ghaul. So, for those of you who don't know who Ghaul is, he was like a high-ranking general to Malifaux during the Legend of Spyro trilogy. He was predominantly only in the second one, which was the Eternal Night. He did, however, face his death to Dark Spyro, so this was Spyro, but he was under, like, the influence of the Eternal Night and became Dark Spyro, turned him into stone, and then destroyed him from there. So yeah, we're going to get into the base description to start off with. So, one of Malifaux's loyal servants, Ghaul serves as the King of the Apes and leads Malifaux's armies into battle. Ghaul was also the one responsible for capturing Cinder on the night of the Dragon Temple attack. Now Ghaul will continue to serve his master and gain victory at any cost. So, yeah, that's the other thing I didn't mention, which I've just mentioned now. Obviously, in the new beginning, the Dragon Temple gets attacked at the beginning, and Ghaul is the one who leads the assault, which from memory I think is further explored in the Eternal Night. I don't exactly remember, but because it's been a while, but yeah. Anyway, so his base health is going to be 750, which is going to match Spyro. And I think Cinder was around 750 also, or 700. If she's 700, she might be 750 instead. We'll see what happens. But then we get into appearances. So at the moment, Ghaul's only got one appearance that I could think of, and that was Ape King. If there are any other appearances you guys might know of and want to tell me, then let me down below in the comments and I can address that in a future video. Then we get into attacks. So he's only got two, and that is his primary button is, well, the primary attack, which is the trigger button, is going to be using his swords. So, kind of like a Jedi or a Sith in Battlefront 2 when you're swinging your lightsaber around, hopefully not swing spamming, of course. And then the aim button is going to be blocking with the swords. And that's about it for his attacks, which means then we can get into his abilities. So the first ability is going to be called Focused Eye Laser. So this is where Ghaul uses his dual eye to focus and fire an energy laser at his enemies, using it at ease for a short time before a small recharge is required. So you probably saw in the image he's got that dual eye. I think it's on the left side. No, sorry, the right side from memory. I'm not sure. You guys will see it anyway in the picture before I do, until I actually edit this video, but yeah. In a way, it's kind of like Cyclops from the X-Men, so yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. I've said that word a lot, also. The second ability is going to be called Energy Drain. So this is where Ghaul uses his staff to focus on a few enemies and drains their ability charge-ups, leaving them to recharge from the start and giving Ghaul and allies close to him a boost to their recharge. So, it's kind of like a taking away and giving away sort of scenario. It's like you take from these guys and you give back. Like Robin Hood, but the other way around. And then the final ability is Swift Lunge. So this is where Gol prepares himself and lunges forward with ferocity at his enemy and thrusts his swords at them, dealing critical damage. So this ability is Grievous's Thrust Surge. So I don't need to say anything else about it because you guys know exactly how that ability works. And then we're going to get into the star cards. So the first one, which, real quick, as you know, he's got the health on kill buff. Well, passive, I should say. The first star card is, for every 10% health missing, Gol gains damage reduction, but his health regeneration speed is halved. So this is Grievous's star card, like his new one that replaced his health on kill card. The second card is Gol has increased maximum health. And then the third card is Gol has increased health regeneration. So those are the three basic ones, and then we're going to get into the cards for his different abilities. So the first two are going to be for Focus Eye Laser. The first one being Gol is more vicious with his Focus Eye Laser as it deals more damage. And then the other one is going to be Gol can use Focus Eye Laser for longer before the recharge is required. So either more damage or more time, your choice. Then the next two are going to be for energy drain. So the first one being Gol can target more enemies with his energy drain, giving a higher boost to himself and allies. So that's going to be very helpful to your teammates when you're in battle. This does affect heroes also, just so you guys are aware of that, which could end up being annoying for just anyone on the opposite team in general. But yeah. And then the other one is Gol's energy drain becomes more dangerous as it can also take a small amount of health away from enemies affected. So this is essentially just a little addition that you could have if you want. It's not going to be like an overpowered thing, because as it mentions, it will only take a small amount of health away. So probably like 25, 50 maybe. But then, of course, you'll get points for each one that you do drain away. And then the final two cards are, of course, for Swift Lunge. The first one being Gol can target enemies that are further away with his Swift Lunge, which is the same as what Grievous has with his Thrust Surge. And the other one is Gol's Swift Lunge is more ferocious as it deals more damage. And that's about it. So that means we've now got Malifaux and Gol covered, which means in the next video we will be covering Flame and Ember, who are the third and fourth heroes for the light side. And then I will let you guys know who I'm going to cover for the dark side next in that video. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, go and check out my other videos, and if you have any suggestions or any feedback on this series, let me down below in the comments and I'll be sure to get to it. I'm pretty responsive these days now, with all my videos and stuff. And if you do want to check out the previous part, because it has been a couple of months since then, the link is in the description. It's also going to be on the title card, which should show up now for you guys. And yeah, that's about it. As in, like, yeah, that's all I gotta say. So once again, thank you guys, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the next one.